You're listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, the place to learn about new technology and technological advances before they become mainstream. This podcast is sponsored by Ingram Micro's Imagine Next. It's not about the destination. It's about going someplace you never thought possible. Go to imaginenext.ingrammicro.com to find out more. Let's get into it.
Welcome to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. I'm your host, Carrie Roberts, and my guest today is Pavel Ferreri. He is a go-to-market strategy leader at IBM. Welcome, Pavel. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Carrie. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to spend time with you and with your audience supporting our partner ecosystem and talking about one of my favorite things in the world, which is how IBM Cloud is the most open and secure cloud for business. Happy to be here.
And before we get into that, you have quite an interesting background. You were a model and TV host in Mexico for a while. You owned a business, you earned your MBA in the US, and you worked your way into technology, working with companies such as Microsoft, Oracle, Salesforce, and of course, now you're with IBM. And I heard you say on another podcast that you applied for your first US technology job at Microsoft about 300 times, and you've now worked your way up to this high level at IBM. I'm curious, where does your passion and hard work come from, and how does it play a role in your leadership at IBM?
Well, first of all, thank you for doing your homework. That's very nice of you, looking at other things. And fortunately, it's been a fun life journey. I've always pursued what some people would consider unreasonable goals, which has allowed me to work for some amazing companies, meet outstanding people, and also accomplish some fulfilling things in the personal life. But in my mind, I keep a beginner's mentality, right? I'm always curious, always learning, always looking for ways to improve my game, and now also helping others improve their game. So I'm just getting started. The story about applying 300 times for my first job to business school, that's 100% true, but this is not an exception. That's how I approach life and how I approach business, right? When I set a goal, I execute my plan, and if it doesn't work, I adapt, I improve, and I try in many different ways until it works. They now call it growth mindset, which I, of course, didn't know the term 15 years ago, but I can report it does work. And, about the passion in my leadership style, I have developed I would say, simple set of personal principles that I live by. Over the years, the list has become a little bigger. Now I call them my success habits. But in essence, they are based on doing everything I do with gratitude, every single action, every single day, with humility and striving for excellence. And every single day that I get to work for IBM and do meaningful work, I do just that. So we can probably spend a whole other session talking about the success habits another time.
Well, I love it. I think, that is what makes a good leader. You're always humble and you're grateful for what's going on. You're always learning, which is obviously what you've been doing since day one and you continue to do here at IBM. Now, one of your focuses at IBM is the cloud. And most companies know that IBM has been a trusted tech leader for decades, but many still don't know that it's also a top 3 leader in the cloud market. Can you give us a little bit of an introduction into what IBM is doing in the cloud?
Absolutely. IBM is officially established as one of the top 3 global leaders in the cloud. And that is measured by cloud revenue, right? Which is a measure of market participation with an impressive $23.5 billion in cloud revenue over the past 12 months. That is roughly 25% of IBM's approximately $80 billion in annual revenue. And with a year-over-year growth of over 20%, that makes our cloud business the fastest growing business segment within IBM. I start with the numbers because they are something that has no flaw and no interpretation, right? They are verifiable facts. And all of this is publicly available information. They also reflect that thousands of companies are trusting us with their money, and I would say more importantly, with their data. To continue providing context, here are a few other data points. We have over 90,000 dedicated experts worldwide in the cloud business. We have performed over 100,000 migrations. We have over 60 data centers with 6 multi-zone regions available globally. We manage over 60 billion security events per day. That's every single day. We bring an unmatched wealth of specialized industry experts and also helping companies develop specialized cloud solutions for what they need, right? So now let me provide a little bit of context about the technology itself. As I said earlier, we built the most secure and enterprise-ready public cloud for business. We have done this by adopting and funding open source technologies like Kubernetes and Istio that we actually co-created, and Cloud Foundry and Knative and many others. So IBM has been investing in open technologies for a long time ago. This is not something new. We built our entire platform on our Kubernetes service and optimized it for what we call ROCs, which is Red Hat OpenShift Kubernetes service. So clients can develop their applications in our cloud, and then they can deploy them anywhere. That is extremely important, Kerry, because that addresses the client's concern of vendor lock-in. No company wants to or should be locked into a vendor based on a contract. They should have the freedom to move their workloads to wherever it makes most sense for them, for their business. So IBM is addressing this. Now, we are aligned in our cloud offerings across a continuum of the client needs, and we call this the journey to the cloud. And if you can imagine from the left to the right, starting from the left hand with advisory, then we offer migration services, modernization, cloud native development, all the way to the right to multi-cloud management, right? So on each of these steps of the cloud journey, we have best-in-class and highly differentiated offerings. For example, on advisory, we have the Garage. This is our cloud innovation services that we use to co-create with our clients, from ideation and conceptualization to MVPs, right, minimum viable products, to production. And this can be done in weeks, not months or years. And something very important, our business partners get paid also for selling these services, right? So that's advisory, and then kind of moving to the right, if you will, on that imaginary continuum. On the move to cloud, on the migration services, we offer the widest amount of migration options of any cloud vendor and the most flexible set of deployment configurations, right? From single tenant bare metal to private virtual data center to multi-tenant virtual machines. So we can migrate all kinds of critical workloads, like VMware, for example. We are the #1 CISO partner for VMware. We're also the #1 NSX partner for VMware. And we're also the #1 cloud vendor hosting VMware workloads in the cloud, production workloads. We have more than 2,000 shared clients with VMware hosting their workloads, again, production level on the IBM Cloud. We were actually the first vendor to ever have a public offer to migrate VMware workloads into the cloud. But it's not only VMware, right? It's also SAP, Oracle, IBM Power, AIX, IBM I. You name it, we can do it. We can help clients migrate their workloads to the cloud with the best amount of configuration deployment options. Then as we continue moving to the right in this imaginary line, in this continuum, we talk about modernization. So with what we call now the cloud packs, which are running on Red Hat OpenShift on the IBM Cloud. And that, along with our approximately, actually over 190 services on our cloud catalog, services from artificial intelligence, data and analytics, blockchain, IoT, even quantum computing is there with IBM Q, you name it. So our clients can add really a wealth of capabilities to their applications, to modernize their existing applications and add, again, value-adding capabilities in our cloud. And then continuing moving further to the right, developing cloud native, which is what I like to call the new way of developing applications. So we have what we call Kubernetes Anywhere with ROCs, and ROCs is our acronym to say Red Hat OpenShift Kubernetes Service. That is a managed service, and that is something extremely important to have a managed service, because that takes all the complexity and the the operational management off of the hands of the IT leaders and the IT teams, and it allows them to focus on the business logic, on driving business, on driving innovation. While in the back end, IBM is managing a series of, look, developing cloud native is great, but it comes with complexities, right? It's an entire environment. So there is provisioning, installation and configuration. There are upgrades and patch management and failure recovery and scaling and backups and blah, blah, blah. A lot of things. So in the IBM Cloud, we do all of that for you, for the client, so the client can focus on innovation. So that's something I would say a very strong differentiator as well on that area. And then as we get, further to the right, multi-cloud management. We created a multi-cloud manager. And again, that's part of IBM's philosophy of recognizing that this is a hybrid multi-cloud world. And companies today already are managing multiple clouds. There's no company that is in one cloud. And actually, there shouldn't be a company that is in one cloud. We understand that there are different requirements, different needs, and it makes sense for companies to have different clouds, plus their on-premise data, some of their data, some of their applications on-premises, right, on their own data center. So that's a lot of complexity, and we offer a multi-cloud manager solution and multiple solutions as well for resiliency and business continuity, like cloud object storage, and then we offer Beam and Zerto through our catalog of offerings. So as you see, there is really a robust and flexible platform, and I'll pause to take a breath and see if that's making sense to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you've just laid out the amazing amount of things that IBM Cloud offers. I'd love to kind of go into some of these a little bit more in depth. You had mentioned Red Hat. It was recently acquired by IBM. How has that been helpful and an asset to the IBM Cloud?
Absolutely. Well, so Red Hat, we like to say this, right? So smart is open and open is smart. So that partnership and that acquisition specifically, right, of Red Hat and joining forces IBM with Red Hat, again, to provide some context, that's the largest acquisition in IBM's history, $34 billion, and one of the largest acquisitions ever across all industries, right? So it was a very significant commitment of IBM, and that's aligned to one of our core pillars and principles, which is open innovation, open technologies. So we're leveraging this open architecture of Red Hat, as well as Red Hat's leading operating system and leadership in the open space. And at the same time, Red Hat is also benefiting with the scale that IBM offers, right? We have presence in over 175 countries. So now Red Hat has also expanded its reach. So it's really a win-win for both companies. As you may have heard or know, Red Hat remains operating as an independent, fully owned company by IBM, right? So both companies are benefiting from this acquisition. And then, I guess, addressing kind of the question on how that has changed IBM from where we were to where we are today. Well, we've made incredible fundamental improvements and investments that go beyond Red Hat. If I may comment on that, Carrie, is that okay?
Of course.
So, and those investments go in different areas, right? From our technology, our go-to-market, and our people. And they have worked. So let me break it down. But first, I would like to provide some context on where IBM is coming from to where we are today. So when you look at the cloud space, just 3 years ago, it's really not very long time ago, IBM still was not taken very seriously as a cloud vendor. Analysts would provide very poor reviews or not even mention IBM as a contender, right? They would criticize usability, functionality, documentation, interoperability, you name it. All aspects were pretty much not very flattering, right? The reviews. And on top of that, clients, they have trusted IBM for decades as a leader in many areas, like the mainframe, the data center, integration, many other areas of technology. But for cloud, not really. They would say, no, thank you, right? Or they would say, do you really have a cloud? And this is just 3 to 5 years ago. So what did we do? First of all, we listened, and then we transformed ourselves. And something that I think is very important to provide some, a little bit of history here. We did this very fast, and that's because we've done it already multiple times. People don't stop to think IBM has been over 100 years in business, 109 years in business to be exact. So that's why we're the longest standing company in the entire industry, right? We actually are one of the very few companies across all industries that remains a Fortune 500 leader since the number one or the first Fortune 500 list back in 1955. That's a long time ago. Many of our competitors didn't even exist then. And here we are, still a leader in the marketplace, right? So really, I would say that our business for IBM, we understand is not necessarily what we're doing today, but it is whatever the world we need tomorrow that nobody knows today. And we've invested billions of dollars every year in research and development, right, to be ahead and to be looking at the future technologies. So kind of with that little bit of context, now let me break it down, the 3 areas that I mentioned, right? The technology, number one. We re-architected the entire platform, our infrastructure, our platform for development. We also, re-architected open sourced Watson, right? One of our, key platforms. We open sourced our blockchain platform, also the weather platform, which, the weather company, which is an IBM-owned company, just like Red Hat. And then, of course, again, as back to your question, the acquisition of Red Hat, which was very, very fundamental in strengthening our portfolio in the market, our cloud portfolio specifically. On top of that, we took all of our legacy software, more than 200 software products and brands that people may remember, like WebSphere or messaging and queuing, Data Power, and many others. Imagine this, Kerry, 200 products, more than 200. We re-architected all of them. We opened them, open sourced them, containerized them, and now we repackage them into what we call the Cloud Packs, which is very simple, 6 bundles of capabilities. And so when you look at all of that, that's massive work performed over the past just couple of years, right? So we have now one architecture that goes all the way down from the operating system on Red Hat, Linux Enterprise. On top of that, all of our infrastructure, open. All of our platform for development, open. All of our Cloud Packs, more than 200 offerings in 6 bundles, and then about 190 plus different value-adding capabilities. So that's a lot of change, right? Then from a go-to-market perspective, number 2, we realigned the entire company, something that has really never been done before at IBM. The entire company, we created an initiative that we call 14 in 4, and we brought the main 14 areas of services aligned to the 4 core areas of that cloud journey that I mentioned a moment ago. Basically from number 1, advisory, number 2, migration, number 3, building or creating cloud native, all the way to multi-cloud management. So we realigned everything in those segments, and the focus is becoming the hybrid cloud and AI leader in the marketplace, right? Backed up by billions of dollars in research and development. And then another very important aspect of the go-to-market, we prioritized our business partners, right, as part of that model. Very, very critical aspect. Bringing business partners at the center of the model. And then, third and last of these 3 is people. We invested and we continue investing very heavily in upskilling our people and our business partners with sessions just like what we're doing right now with you here, right? So really, really focusing on that. And so what's the outcome? Well, when you look at IBM today, it is a very different picture, right? We are recognized by Gartner. Actually, there is a Gartner Peer Insights report just from February 2020, where we were rated 4.7 out of 5 stars, above all of our competitors, above the other top competitors in the space, to be specific. Across the board, from willingness to recommend, to security capabilities, to deployment, and so on. And there are other analysts, right, also providing very, very good reviews of our capabilities. And I would say much more important than that, thousands of clients trusting us, worldwide with their data. So that speaks for itself. So when you look at IBM today, it is a very different, story, and we're very strongly positioned to take advantage of what we call Chapter 2 of the cloud, Kerry. So Chapter 2 of the cloud is a $1 trillion with P, $1 trillion opportunity for what we see as the hybrid and multi-cloud environment, where clients will need to manage across multiple clouds and multiple cloud vendors, right? And we're seeing that already. Any given company, any given enterprise has, 5 to 7 different cloud vendors today. And so IBM has positioned itself to be strongly differentiated to help in this new hybrid multi-cloud reality that creates not only opportunities for clients, but also challenges, right? Because now they are concerned with portability, with connectivity, with management across multiple clouds, and IBM has all of those capabilities. So in short, I guess in summarizing all of this, again, long list of points that I offered, Kerry, with all the investments that we've made, with all the right changes that we've done, IBM is very, very strongly positioned today, and that's why we're one of the top cloud players, and we're going to be here for the long run.
Now, if businesses that are listening, small businesses have different needs than larger businesses, are you able to kind of break down maybe 3 things that IBM Cloud can specifically help for a small business or a large business that maybe they don't know that would be really beneficial to them?
Absolutely, and thank you for bringing that up, Kerry. Let me start by saying this. The whole principle in our cloud is allowing enterprises to innovate at the speed of the startups, giving that agility to large companies that sometimes move slow, right? But also offering the startups and the small businesses the scalability, the enterprise-grade security and sophistication of a large enterprise, which otherwise a small business wouldn't have the ability to do that ever in their own little data center, right? So IBM is focused on covering all the spectrum. And then, again, focusing, I guess, on the small business, because, IBM has historically been very strong in the large enterprise space, right? And not only IBM, but every company usually, uses kind of the flagship examples of success stories with very large enterprises, right? Like, Hertz and American Airlines and Bank of America and the large companies as the flagship examples. But also, let me tell you, we are very actively working with small businesses, small and medium-sized businesses around the world. We've created, again, initiatives and offerings and services like the Garage to help companies in a very agile way innovate. So all of those capabilities that are there, more than telling you, like, say, 3 of them, it is, 190 plus of them capabilities that all small businesses can leverage from IBM. And we have, multiple payment models that are accessible and flexible for all kinds of budgets, right? To start small and grow with us. So there is no big upfront, payment commitment or anything like that. So really, any and every small business can, again, benefit from having the ability to scale up and down as big and as high as they need and want, with the top security, with a set of open technologies, and with the level of sophistication that any large enterprise would demand with any global bank. And you can be a small startup with, 10, or a small business with 50 or 100 employees and have access to all of those capabilities and the expertise, the specialized industry expertise that IBM brings to the table.
Now, when you think about technology as a whole, where do you see it going within the next year? And you can, relate this to this cloud conversation, but when you're thinking about it as a whole, what is your vision for it in the next year?
Oh, wow. Well, my vision is very optimistic. Let me first say that, right? And I've, over the years, working in technology for the past, about 15 years, I have very personally, beyond my job, become very passionate about disruptive innovation. And that's an area where I've had the opportunity to give some talks in some, multiple forums, universities, and so on. And so I see technology going, and just by being part of this industry, I've talked to so many companies all around the world, IBM clients, and I've talked to so many business partners and so on. The industry is going, again, some things that are clear kind of in the immediate future, almost happening already, certainly going to a hybrid multi-cloud world, right, where containerization and open technologies will become more pervasive. And there are other technologies that are also taking some, important place, like blockchain and quantum computing, and now edge computing, right, which takes kind of Internet of Things to the next level, if you will. And so these are some of the things that I see kind of in the following, between like already right now, the following 5 years happening. And, anything beyond 5 years is a little bit of a speculation because technology keeps moving so fast, right? But I can tell you something. Each and every one of these technologies that I just mentioned, IBM is very strongly positioned to be the long-term winner in each and every one of those spaces. We have leading offerings already in quantum computing, publicly available for commercial use on our public cloud, for blockchain, for business. Again, we're leading in open technologies and containerization, and certainly offering, a very, very robust set of, hybrid and multi-cloud options. So I see IBM very strongly positioned, and I see the world being able to adapt as we can see in the post-COVID-19 world. Companies are realizing that sometimes whatever they thought was not possible, well, guess what? It is possible if you have to make it work, right? Restaurants are putting tables in the street, and people are sitting in the street in those tables. And companies are having, remote meetings to close large deals. And the deals are closing. You don't need to sit face to face, and so on, right? So the world changes, the world adapts, and technology is an enabler for that. So it is really fascinating how technology and science, I would say, have helped, improve human quality of life and businesses so much and so fast.
Yeah, I agree. And I love that IBM, as you had said, has been around a long time, longer than a lot of its competitors as well. And yet it's constantly innovating and evolving. And that's really exciting. If people have questions about what we talked about, or they want to connect with you, where is the best place to do that?
Absolutely. And may I add a little additional point, which I think is very important, is just briefly talk about kind of the principles that go behind our platform, which I guess I didn't mention earlier. Do I have a couple minutes to do that?
Of course, yeah.
Great. So I think this is a very important point, right? Because this is kind of the principles behind all what I just shared in this nice conversation here with you. And those principles are, number one, open innovation, right? A commitment to open innovation. Number two, a commitment to cybersecurity leadership. And then what we call enterprise grade, number three. So these are the three pillars behind which, or on top of which, we have built our entire platform. And so when we say open, right, back to the principle of having open technologies, offering Kubernetes everywhere, and offering companies the ability to develop cloud native and leverage methodologies like dev security ops and techniques like design thinking with the garage and so on. And then when we say security leadership, right, I'm talking about things like data confidentiality, for example. It is something so important. It is in our terms and conditions that IBM will not use customers' data for any purpose. Some other companies, some of our competitors, are known for using their clients' data to improve their AI algorithms, for example. So IBM doesn't do that. And, when we talk about, for example, encryption, we have, strong, again, differentiation there with capabilities like there is something called bring your own key that allows companies, to bring their own keys to their environment, but they still have to, hand them over to the administrator of the cloud vendor. We offer the next level up, which is called keep your own key, by which no one at IBM, not even the administrators, not even our CEO, no one has access to the client's data. right? So that's extremely important when we talk about, again, encryption, data confidentiality, multiple different isolation levels. This matters for clients. So security certainly matters and is essential. And IBM has been a security leader, right, in that space. And then when we say enterprise grade, again, it's not that it's only focused on enterprises. No, it's that any small business or large enterprise, anyone with a relatively small commitment or investment, right, they have access to enterprise-grade capabilities. As I said, from bare metal, regulated workloads, having access to a platform as a service, SLAs of 99.99 for both high availability as well as non-high availability workloads, which again, our competitors don't offer the same for the non-high availability workloads specifically. We don't charge companies for moving data, for bandwidth, right, for network transfer of data between our own data centers. Others do, and you don't know how much you're going to pay until you get the bill. So these pillars, again, I guess, bringing it down to the three simple points: open innovation, security leadership, and enterprise-grade capabilities is, the foundation of what makes us be able to claim that we're the most open and secure public cloud for business. And I just wanted to say that, Kerry. And then now back to your question, where can people find us? Well, I have a contact for Ingram Micro, and his name is Donald Oehman, and you spell that DONALD.OEHMAN @ingrammicro.com. And then from IBM, our point of contact for everything Ingram Micro, actually points of contact are Mark Gels and Jennifer Arndt. So Mark is MGELS @us.ibm.com, and Jennifer is CLARKEJ @us.ibm.com. So those are the main contacts. If anyone wants to contact me or connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to connect with you. Pavel Ferreri, not Ferrari, but Ferreri with E. You can find me there on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect with everyone, Kerry.
Well, thank you, Pavel. I love your passion and excitement for life and for all that you're doing here at IBM. We thank you so much for being a part of the show today.
Well, it is my pleasure. Let me plug in a little commercial. I know you're going to be doing other 2 sessions with some of my colleagues and friends at IBM, some of the most amazing guys here. Chris Ross, the Director of Offering Management for our cloud native offerings. And then the other one with Matt Johnson, the Offering Manager for VMware on IBM Cloud. So people should listening to those 2 sessions after this one. And it is totally a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you so much. If you like this episode or have a question, join the discussion on Twitter at Ingram TechSol with the hashtag B2B Tech Talk. Thank you for tuning in and subscribing to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro.
You've been listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, hosted by Kerry Roberts. This episode was sponsored by Ingram Micro's Imagine Next. B2B Tech Talk is a joint production with Sweetfish Media and Ingram Micro. Ingram Micro production handled by Laura Burton and Christine Fan. To not miss an episode, subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform.